which will also be attended by U.S. President Joe Biden. Junta head Min Aung Hlaing announced the release of 5,636 prisoners after foreign ministers from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations (ASEAN) refused to invite him to the October 26 to 28 summit. A non-political representative from Myanmar was asked to attend the summit instead of Min Aung Hlaing because of insufficient progress in a peace roadmap following the coup in February. According to a local monitoring group, more than 7,300 are currently behind bars, according to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners. Min Aung Hlaing said the release was to mark the Thating Youth Festival later in October. Min Aung Hlaing gave no details on who would be included in the list, and prison authorities did not respond to AFP requests for comment. Myanmar authorities released more than 2,000 anti-coup protesters from prisons across the country in June, including journalists critical of the military government. Those still in custody include the American journalist Annie Fenster, who has been held since being arrested on May 24. More than 1,300 of those due to be released would be freed on the condition they sign agreements promising not to re-offend, Min Aung Hlaing said. Such agreements were basically a form of parole that entails constant menacing surveillance, David Mathieson, an analyst formerly based in Myanmar, told AFP. It doesn't absolve the SAC, State Administration Council, as the junta dubs itself, of 9 months of extreme violence. The release comes on the heels of ASEAN's decision to exclude military chief Min Aung Hlaing from an upcoming summit of the 10-country bloc over his administration's commitment to defusing the bloody crisis. The bloc, widely criticized as a toothless organization, took a strong stand after the junta rebuffed requests for a special envoy to meet all stakeholders in Myanmar, a phrase seen to include ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi. The ASEAN statement, issued by Brunei, which is hosting the summit, noted insufficient progress in the implementation of a 5-point plan agreed by the bloc's leaders in April to end the post-coup turmoil. It added the situation in Myanmar was having an impact on regional security as well as the unity, credibility and centrality of ASEAN. The junta slammed the exclusion, saying it was extremely disappointed and strongly objected to the decision. In a statement, the military accused ASEAN of breaching its policy of non-interference in the domestic affairs of member states. The discussions and decision on Myanmar's representation issue was done without consensus and was against the objectives of ASEAN, the Foreign Ministry said. Min Aung Hlaing on Monday blamed his opponents for the prolonged unrest and insisted the ruling military was committed to peace and democracy. In In his first comments since Myanmar's neighbors decided to exclude him from an upcoming ASEAN summit, he called on the organization to consider the provocations and violence being carried out by its opponents. He made no mention of the ASEAN decision, but suggested the outlawed National Unity Government, NUG, and armed ethnic groups were trying to sabotage the ASEAN-led peace process. More violence happened due to provocations of terrorist groups, Min Aung Hlaing said in a speech on television, where he appeared in civilian attire. No one cares about their violence, and is only demanding we solve the issue. ASEAN should work on that. Min Aung Hlaing said Myanmar wanted ASEAN's special envoy, Iriwan Yusof, to visit the country as agreed, but some of his demands were non-negotiable. He did not elaborate. The NUG, a broad alliance of anti-coup groups that includes members of Suu Kyi's ousted ruling party, has backed the training and formation of militias called People's Defense Forces behind attacks on security forces in several regions of the country. The NUG recently declared a nationwide rebellion against military rule. The shadow government on Monday welcomed ASEAN's exclusion of the junta leader, but said the NUG should be the legitimate representative. ASEAN excluding Min Aung Hlaing is an important step, but we request that they recognize us as the proper representative, said its spokesman Dr. Sasa. However, he said the NUG would accept inviting a truly neutral alternative Myanmar representative. Which will also be attended by U.S. President Joe Biden. Myanmar, mostly ruled by the military since a 1962 coup, has been a thorn in ASEAN's side since it joined in 1997. Min Aung Hlaing's administration has justified its power grab citing alleged vote rigging in last year's elections, which Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy (NLD) party won convincingly. The coup snuffed out Myanmar's short-lived dalliance with democracy, and the 76-year-old Suu Kyi now faces a raft of charges in a junta court that could see her jailed for decades. Last week, her chief lawyer said he had been banned by the junta from speaking to journalists, diplomats or international organizations. The other lawyers on her legal team also faced a similar ban, effectively muzzling the key sources of information on court proceedings, from which journalists are barred. Nobel laureate Suu Kyi, who has spent much of her life resisting Myanmar's generals, is scheduled to testify in court for the first time later this month.